Hello everyone, it's Natalie. Welcome to my channel, Find Joy in the Journey. Look, I am out here in the Joy Garden today, and basically I came out here late. For the first part of the day, I went and I spent time with my mom. I bought her gifts for Mother's Day, that's tomorrow, and I won't be able to go and be with her on Mother's Day, so I decided to visit her today, give her flowers. Look, I bought her a bouquet of mums. So, that's what I told her. I said, Mom, guess what kind of flower this is? And she said, what is it? I said, they're mums. Anyway, so I bought her this pretty bouquet of mums. I bought her cake. She loves cake. And just spent time with her, and one of my older sisters were there, so we just had fun and we laughed and talked, and it did my heart good. It did her heart good for us to spend time together. But for Mother's Day, I'll be here in my house, here celebrating Mother's Day with my boys. So, but today is my first time out in the garden. I didn't even do my morning inspection. Can you believe that? And it rained and rained and rained yesterday. It rained really heavy yesterday. Now there was a break in between, so the water was able to absorb into the ground and kind of, run off. So it wasn't flooded back here. But that heavy rain, after a heavy rain, you get some damage sometimes, and you get insects. So I looked to see if there was any insect activity, and I didn't see anything. And I just harvested, oh my gosh, the biggest zucchini. I swear, one of the largest. I'm going to show you that, my zucchini. But another thing I did, and you may have seen the footage of it, okay, my Brussels sprout plants. They're a thing of the past. I uprooted all the Brussels sprouts. One reason is because you'll see it in another video, there was caterpillars, those little cabbage lopers. They got to my broccoli, but I was able to stop them, and they were also attacking the Brussels sprouts. So I uprooted all the Brussels sprouts. I told you I was going to do that anyway. I tried to salvage as many as I could. Look, off of all those plants. See, and I don't even know if all of these are totally good. So I'm going to kind of just go through them and see what can be kept and what needs to be composted. It won't be thrown away, it will be composted. And all of this here, all this plant waste, I'm going to either compost this or I'm going to use it for fertilizer. The way I learned to make this sort of homemade natural fertilizer is to take plant waste like this, and then you add what they call native soil, or I say just dirt. This isn't native soil. I would have to literally dig in my garden to get natives, in ground to get native soil. So you have the scraps, the garden scraps, you have the native soil or the soil, and then you add water, preferably rainwater, not from your hose or your tap, because that has been treated. The water that we use in our households, in most places, they treat the water. They add chlorine, they add fluoride for your teeth, all of that. So you want good old natural rainwater, and you use that, and you're gonna let the scraps, I've said this before, you're gonna let the scraps stay in there until it just decomposes and it turns into this nice, rich, very organic fertilizer. So I can also use these plant scraps for that. So that's why I got my garden cart, okay? That's why I got my garden cart, and I filled it up, okay? So that was one of the things on my to-do list. I did a video where I said I'm working on my to-do list. That was one of the things on my to-do list. I always say, with gardening, we all have busy lives. We have other things that we're doing besides gardening. And so we may not have time to do a lot in the garden, but if you can just do a little, if you can't do a lot, do a little. I always say that if you can't do a lot, do a little, because that adds up. If you can just come out and do a little pruning one day, and then maybe the next day you do your fertilizing, and then the next day maybe you have a greenhouse that is just overflowing with seedlings and uh, transplants that needs to be planted out. That's your opportunity. Even if you just do, you've seen me come out here and just do a segment where I'm doing planting just my red kidney beans. Or I may just come out here and get a grow bag and plant just those watermelons. And that'd be all I did for the day. That would be it. What you saw me do in that video may have been all I did in the garden that day. And then I do my inspection and check everything. Certain things I may have to make note of it and come back and do it later because I don't have time to actually finish the whole project or whatever. So I may have to come back and work on that or work on this, but I make note of it. I also talked about keeping a journal or writing things down and making with the to-do list. Also journaling what I do for each plant. What if I fertilized, what day I fertilized. If I fertilized this Sunday, then I will skip the next Sunday and fertilize again the Sunday after, because that'll be every 2 weeks or every 14 days. So you make note of when you fertilize. I made note of when I use the yeast fertilizer because I want to keep track of the progress that my plants made after using that fertilizer to see if it really works. A lot of people swear by this yeast fertilizer, so I applied it to the plants, and I did see a visible difference. Oh yeah. I mean, if you should see my broccoli and my cabbage right now, oh, shame. Lots of growth. So, I'm not going to do a walk around, not today, because I just want to hop on and say hi and just let you know that my Brussels sprouts, they're gone now. And I will definitely grow Brussels sprouts again. I will definitely try again. And like I said, I rate when I grow something in the garden. I always say this is a success. Your failures and your success. I consider this is not a total success, but it's definitely not a failure because if you saw those big, beautiful Brussels sprout plants, they were beautiful. It's just that I need to do a little more research and learn how to plant them in a way where they can grow nice and large, and the whole stalk will be filled and the Brussels sprouts uniform. I know it's possible because I've seen it. So it's like I just need to be able to do it. I feel like with my mustard greens, I always consider my experience with mustard greens. First of all, I struggled with mustard greens in the beginning, and then finally when I was able to get them to grow, to germinate and grow, I would always have some horrible infestation that would almost wipe out the entire crop. But I've learned to, if you see an infestation, as soon as you see those little nibble holes, hop on it. And if you can stop the infestation, those plants will regrow. They will regrow bigger and better than ever. And that's happened to me many times with my mustards. And if you go back and look at the footage, I have grown mustards, huge, big mustard leaves. I always say they're bigger than an elephant's ear, okay? They're huge. And not only that, they're so big you can use them as a fan, okay? So I consider my Brussels sprouts not necessarily a full success, but okay, maybe an honorable mention. An honorable mention. I say that if I learn how, do a little more research on how to grow them, how to fertilize them, should they be close together, should they be far apart, should you grow them on their own and not in next to something else, give it, because the roots were extensive. Look at this. The roots were quite, it pretty much took over the raised bed. I was actually concerned about uprooting them. I know some people just cut their plants down to the root level and leave it in there. I now understand why they do that, because if you disturb these roots, it may disturb the roots of the other plants. I was concerned that because I have beans growing right next to the Brussels sprout, I have zucchini growing right next to the Brussels sprouts over there, and I was concerned that disturbing the roots of these Brussels sprout plants would damage the roots of those plants that are next to them. but I think it's going to be okay. I try to pull only from that area and not let it disturb the area near those other plants. So that's another thing. And one day I'm going to sit, we're going to have a conversation about this companion planting, because sometimes they say that certain things are great companion plants, but in my opinion, you still have to be very selective, because what if you have something that you see that the soil is always drying out, so you're always watering, constantly watering, and the plant that's next to it doesn't need to be watered that often. That's where the problem I think happened with these Brussels sprouts. They're in the same bed with something that you need to keep the bed always evenly moist, always have to water them, and then the Brussels sprouts suffered from it, and you could see a lot of water damage on the Brussels sprouts. So, it just makes you wonder. They say certain things are great companion plants, but sometimes you just be careful. Just be selective on what you plant together. Think about it. If you think about, I water this quite often, and this over here may not need to be watered that often. Maybe I should not place them close together, because when you're watering one, the other one's getting wet at the same time. I'm just saying, that's what I'm experiencing. So, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'm pretty much done. I got to go inside anyway, because I have to go in there with Josh. So, I think today was a productive day because I crossed something off my to-do list. I told you I was going to work on my to-do list, and I am. So one of the things on my to-do list was to uproot the Brussels sprouts, and I did. Okay? So not tomorrow, because tomorrow's my Mother's Day, my mommy's day. So I'm not going to work in the garden. Who knows? Maybe I will. This is my joy garden. I enjoy coming out here. So if it's a clear day and it's not soppy, wet, and rainy, maybe I will come out here and do something. Maybe plant something new. But other than that, I'm done for today out here. So I'm going to go ahead and pack everything up and go inside. And I just wanted to hop on and say hi. Okay, and to all you mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. Enjoy your day. So if I don't speak to you tomorrow, which is Sunday, Mother's Day, I'm telling you now, happy Mother's Day. God bless you. Okay, bye now.